when Vanessa went missing, I did a photo reading, which is I use pictures and manipulate them and warp them to gain information. And immediately a man popped out in the photo. And I found somebody that could possibly be a match to that photo. And upon researching that person and their timeline via Facebook, a story formulated in my head of what possibly could have happened. So this video is a possible scenario formulated through my psychic energy, and not to be taken literal. So I think she worked with somebody who was married. I believe this couple was possibly high school sweethearts and had a couple children. Now, Vanessa and this man, I believe, became friends, and I get from her energy that she's very nice and kind and a bit naive because of inexperience. Now, as I'm talking about this other couple, the man and his wife, these are actual facts, okay? But when I talk about his interaction with Vanessa, that's hypothetical. So, the man and his wife, there was a turning point in the marriage, a very significant turning point, an event that transpired that I found. And ironically, right after this event, for whatever reason, I don't know if they're divorced, but they're definitely separated. The wife is back home. According to the timeline on Facebook, the wife is gone with the kids. So I think what happened was the husband became attached to Vanessa. I don't know if it was before or after, or if it was the reason or whatever. But the event that transpired between the husband and the wife included, possibly, most likely, a significant amount of money to the wife. Now, right before she left him, the couple has a photo, their last photo of them together that I could find before they're separated. Now, in this photo, the wife is looking into the distance as if to be daydreaming what could be. And I get from the photo that the choice is already made. She's leaving. So when I see this is one of the possible scenarios that I formulate in my head as I keep researching, okay? I believe somewhere along the line of this marriage, during the time that the quote-unquote event was transpiring, he had turned away from his wife and developed romantic feelings for Vanessa. And to the extent that even if Vanessa told him, "You're just a good friend, blah, 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 blah," he couldn't hear it. She could have told him a million times. he couldn't hear it. And I don't think he came on real strong to her, because I can see them interacting frequently. Now, to Vanessa, these interactions were just innocent and convenient, and she considered him a good friend. But to him, these interactions were very significant. And I think over a matter of several months, he started to rearrange his life for her. And I believe that that included getting rid of his family, making his wife's life miserable so that she would leave. Now, after she leaves, and the dates according to about the time that she left and the time that Vanessa disappears can coincide with each other. So after the wife leaves, I think he prepared for Vanessa and had this whole fantasy in his head that wasn't really happening or couldn't happen, and it wasn't going to happen, but to him it was very real and was going to happen. And I think that he prepared for her to be in his life, meaning got rid of everything of his family, got his place ready, and kind of jumped the gun a little bit, but surprised her out of the blue, pretty much. Like, just showed up and said, hey, let's go to lunch, or something. And I also did a pendulum reading, and it showed that she went from that parking lot by her work to the bank down the street, and then to like a shopping center of some kind. Now, I can't do street view on the base, so I'm assuming there could be some kind of restaurant right there. So they go to the bank and they go to the restaurant. And I think they have lunch, and he's really nervous and this and that. And I don't know if it was there that he professed his love to her, or took her off base somewhere. I'll have to try to read into that more. But anyway, so he professes love to her, even maybe to the point that he proposed to her, quite possibly. And in his mind, it was going to happen. He had prepared in his mind 4 months for this event, to the extent of making his family miserable, his wife miserable, to leave. Now, to Vanessa, during these months, there may or may not have been anything out of the ordinary with their interactions. So anyway, he kind of surprised her out of the blue, and I think she kind of, during these months that he was preparing for her, she sensed something and kind of was a bit afraid of him. But she accepted the invitation anyways. And so they go to lunch or whatever. And I think they go to lunch on base, and then he takes her off base to talk because, you're in the military, you're going to be in deep trouble. Maybe they didn't even go to lunch on base, but I think they did. So anyway, he takes her off base and professes his love to her somewhere. And of course, Vanessa says, oh, well, yeah, that's never going to happen. I'm sorry, but it's never going to happen. So I really think in his mind, that wasn't even an option that was going to happen. And he kind of leaned in towards her, like, come on, it's okay, and tried to get romantically physical, and she pushed him away. So of course we know that this isn't normal behavior, okay? But in order to psychically or whatever try to piece stuff together, you have to get in the other person's shoes, or whoever, both parties. So I think that's why people who can do this type of stuff have to be well-rounded and have to have experience with just about a little bit of everything, okay? Because if you've never experienced certain things, you can't understand where somebody's coming from. So anyways, I have to get into his shoes and see where he's coming from at this moment in order to understand what happens next. Now, try to imagine spending several months planning for an event, being deeply in love with somebody, getting rid of your family for them. Whether that's something you would do or not, just try to imagine it. And when the time comes, you get denied. Now, if you spend that long preparing for something, there's a deep-seated something going on, okay? Madly in love. I don't know the words, okay, but it's like a slingshot, okay? As far as you pull back, so I'm comparing to his preparation and everything for this event as it pulling back, okay? And then when you snap it and you expect it to soar, okay? There has to be a reaction, okay? So because it didn't soar and go the way he wanted, it still gives a reaction to that person of some sort, has to have a great, as much as of an impact at the time of it happening, okay? It has to be just as great as the love in this sense. And unfortunately, he had to act out of desperation and rage to get to this point, because he had prepared, instead of her falling into his arms being like, oh, I love you, yes, we're gonna live happily ever after, she said no. And so it has to get released somewhere, in some direction, which is very unfortunate that she didn't know. So out of desperation, he tries to romantically connect with her. At which point he rapes her. So this goes along with my picture reading, because when I asked what did this man do to you? This is what showed up. And so I don't know what happens after this point, okay? But I don't think she's alive. I don't know if he kills her at this point. Or she gets up and runs and possibly falls somewhere. Because I get mixed things on that. But it could be both. It could be he was chasing her. Okay, now I don't know if it was actually his hands that killed her. Okay. For some reason or another, after this event happened, she died. And I'm trying to get to that. Still. I think I possibly know where she's at, and I've already told the authorities. Whether they look into that or not, I don't know. But the reason that I think she possibly fell, and maybe the impact is what killed her, is because in my other video, I tell this too, and it was my first experience with anything like this to this extent during a psychic reading. It was like the second day or whatever that I was doing her picture reading, and I was outside having my normal cigarette and coffee for the morning, looking at her pictures, and I started getting really dizzy and lightheaded. So I stood up and opened the door to come back inside, and had to catch myself. Well, I tried to catch myself on my dryer because I was going down fast. And the crazy thing is, I couldn't see what was going on, and I couldn't feel it. But I could hear it. And what had happened was I guess you could say I fainted. Okay, which I've never fainted in my life that I know of. But my head, I like hit something on the way down probably a couple of times, and this is a matter of like seconds. And my head though smacked the floor really hard. And I could hear it. I could hear myself go, ugh. And I could hear my head smack the floor. And I heard my phone hit something. And then it was like I snapped and woke up and stood up and thought, what the fuck just happened? And went about my day because I was in a hurry and I was late to get somewhere anyways. And then I was telling what had happened later in the day to my daughter. So I'm going to stop here because I don't know how long this video is going to be, and I need to upload it, and I'll continue in another video. So this will be part 1.